Chapter 6. If one swing is not enough, then two will do. When the apocalypse started, it was early morning, so there hadn't been many students in the area. However, delivery workers and cafeteria staff had already begun their shifts, meaning the kitchen and warehouse were likely crowded with zombies. Checking her watch, Zhao Lijai saw that it was 8:10 a.m. Before she entered the cafeteria, she retrieved a bottle of water from her space and drank half of it in quick gulps. As she stored the bottle back, she noticed a group of people in the distance. Leading the group was a man with silver hair, followed by 5 other men and 2 girls. Zhao Lijai's gaze turned cold the moment it landed on one of the girls. Her fists clenched tightly, and her nails dug into her palms as a wave of killing intent surged in her heart. She took a deep breath to calm her emotion, let out a chuckle, and muttered, "Mo Bingsu, I never thought I would meet you so soon in this life." "It seems the world truly is small, as enemies are destined to cross paths," she said coldly. Even though she wanted nothing more than to kill Mo Bingsu, Zhao Lijai knew it was impossible in her current condition. The reason was none other than the silver-haired man and his team. He was one of the rare few who awakened their abilities early during the apocalypse. In her previous life, this man was renowned for his terrifying thunder-type ability power. While she was recalling details about him, a loud explosion echoed from their direction, pulling her from her thoughts. Crack boom. Zhao Lijai sneered as she watched them fight the zombies. Though his thunder ability was very powerful, the attack caused too much sound. The deafening sound of his attacks would definitely attract nearby zombies. As expected, scattered zombies began rushing toward the group, roaring with their mouths open wide. For Zhao Lijai, this was an opportunity she wouldn't waste. Since someone was willing to act as bait for her, she would take full advantage of it. She looked at them and whispered with a smile, "Thank you for your help." While they were occupied with the zombies, she slipped into the cafeteria through the back door. Thanks to their commotion, most of the zombies had been drawn away, leaving only 1 or 2 zombies trapped inside the kitchen. Spotting a kitchen knife on the ground, she picked it up and walked towards the kitchen door with light steps. The moment she opened it, a pair of rotten hands reached out for her face. As the rotten hands almost touched her face, the rancid smell hit her nostrils and made her dizzy. "Roar!" the zombie roared with excitement as the delicious food was delivered to its doorstep. Bam! Zhao Lijai pulled the door shut without hesitation, trapping the zombie's hands between the door and the frame. Raising the knife, she swung it down, aiming at the rotten hands. Crack! The knife wasn't as sharp as the dagger she had used in her previous life, and it failed to sever the rotten hands in one strike. If one swing isn't enough, then 2 will do, she thought inwardly. Gritting her teeth, she swung the knife again. This time, she used as much strength as she has and finally cut off the rotten hands. Afterward, she pushed the door open as hard as she could and sent the zombie stumbling backward, colliding with another behind it. Seizing the opportunity, she lunged forward and slashed the knife across their half-broken necks in one fluid motion. Crack! With the added momentum, the power of her attack increased, and with a single swing of the knife, the zombie's head was severed cleanly from its body. As the zombie's head rolled to the ground, the decapitated bodies collapsed with dull thuds. Roar! Before she could take a breath, another zombie lunged at her with its mouth open. Seeing the sharp teeth coming, she turned her body and kicked the zombie in the chin with an aerial move. Duog! Crack bam! The sound of cracking bones echoed through the kitchen, along with the sound of something hitting the countertops. When the zombie struggled to get up, she bent her knees and lunged at the zombie. She gripped the kitchen knife tightly and slashed across the zombie's neck. Crack! The rush of adrenaline gave her more strength than usual, and her attack successfully cut off the zombie's head. When the head fell to the ground with a thud, black blood spurted out from the headless corpse, staining the walls and ground red. Zhao Lijai leaned against the wall, looked at the rotten body on the ground, and breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, The zombies' necks were almost bitten off, and the heads barely hung on the neck. Otherwise, it would not be so easy for her to kill the zombies. Wiping black blood from her cheek, Zhao Lijai scanned the kitchen. She wasted no time gathering supplies, taking only those items that were clean and free of zombies' blood or rotten flesh. Anything contaminated was left behind. After collecting the supplies, she turned her attention to the cooking equipment. She stored stoves, gas cylinders, a full set of knives, 2 sets of boning knives, and cleavers into her space. With these, she wouldn't need to rely on the wooden stick anymore. After cleaning up the supplies, she quickly left the cafeteria and went to the warehouse. Chapter 7: Empty Warehouse. When Zhao Lijai reached the warehouse area, she discovered several delivery trucks parked outside. Looking at the logo printed on the truck, her mood lifted up instantly. Before exploring the warehouse, she decided to check the trucks. Apart from 1 or 2 zombies locked inside the driver's seats, the trucks and the surrounding areas were clear of zombies. Grabbing the kitchen knife, she pried open the back of one truck and found it packed with bags of rice. The moment she saw the supplies, a smile appeared on her face. With a wave of her hand, the bags of rice were stored in her space. Once she was done, she went to check out the other trucks. Frozen meat, sausages, vegetables, eggs, and bags of flour were found in the other 4 trucks. Once the supplies on the trucks were collected, she entered the warehouse and began storing everything inside. She didn't bother to check if the supplies were spoiled or not, as she didn't have a lot of time. When she found a safe place, she would sort out the supplies later. Not long after, she found that the sound of fighting was not as loud as before. She knew that she didn't have much time left, and Mo Bingsu and the others would catch up soon. By the time she finished collecting everything, the sounds of fighting outside had subsided. Without wasting even a second, she left the warehouse and headed toward the mini-market. To avoid being seen, she chose a desolate path near the lake. Though the path was longer, it was safer, as few people visited the area. So this area would also be free of zombies. Despite her fatigue, Zhao Lijai gritted her teeth and continued running without looking back. At the same time, the upperclassmen group finally reached the cafeteria after clearing up the zombies. As soon as they entered the building, 2 of them closed the gate and blocked it with chairs and tables, while the others went to the kitchen. The moment they saw the beheaded zombies inside, one of them cursed angrily, "Damn it! Someone has been here before us." Hearing this, Mo Bingsu's eyes flashed with annoyance, but she showed nothing on her face. Turning to the man, she hesitated for a moment before she asked softly, "Senior, what should we do now?" The man looked at her weak appearance and felt annoyed. This girl is nothing more than a burden to them. If it weren't for her screams, they wouldn't have attracted so many zombies and wasted so much time fighting for their lives. Glaring at her, he ordered sharply, "Search the area and gather whatever is left." Even though his tone angered her, Mo Bingsu swallowed her resentment and followed his order. In order to survive in this chaotic time, she needed these people. Volunteering to join the group to find supplies was her way of earning their favor and showing that she had some value. As she searched the kitchen, the foul stench of rotting flesh stung her nose. With the addition of the headless, rotten corpses on the ground, her stomach churned and she almost vomited on the spot. Pinching on her nose, she avoided the zombie's body and head as much as possible. As she held back her nausea, her face turned pale. When the other girls saw this, she sneered at her and muttered, "What a coward." Mo Bingsu glared at her, but held her tongue. The other girl had awakened a water ability and was now a core member of the group. Between herself, a powerless tag-along, and someone who could provide water to the group, the choice was obvious. For now, she would endure the humiliation. Once she could get the chance, she would definitely kill this bitch. After a thorough search, they managed to find half a bag of rice, some seasoning, and half a can of vegetable oil. Showing their finding to the silver-haired man, one of the men said, "Brother Pei, this is all we found." Pei Yijun frowned at the small amount of supplies they found, turned to leave, and said, "Let's check the warehouse." As the vice president of the student union, he has an aura of leadership that makes everyone follow him willingly. Now that he has made this decision, no one has any objection and followed after him. They hurried to the warehouse, hoping that there would still be supplies left. Unfortunately, the moment they reached the warehouse, they only found it completely empty. Not to mention supplies, not even a leaf was found inside. Standing at the entrance, one of them yelled in frustration, "Who the hell cleaned this place out?" Aitg's expression darkened when he saw the empty warehouse, but he kept his anger under control and warned his friend, "Li Yang, lower your voice or you will attract the monsters." With his warning, the man shut up. No one dared to shout anymore, even if their hearts were filled with anger. The group exchanged grim looks as Aitg gave his next order, "There is nothing here. Let's head to the mini-market." Hearing this, they all nodded, thinking that no matter who took away the supplies in the warehouse, they would not be able to carry more and wouldn't go to the mini-market. So, they would be able to find food and water at the mini-market. With this thought, they began making their way there while stopping occasionally to fight zombies. By the time they left the cafeteria area, Zhao Lijai had already reached the mini-market. Chapter 8. Collect, collect, collect everything. Unlike the warehouse area, there weren't many zombies near the mini-market. The door to the mini-market was locked, which meant no one had come yet, and the supplies inside remained untouched. Seeing this, a smile appeared on Zhao Lijai's face. To conserve her energy and time, she avoided fighting the zombies outside and instead climbed to the second floor from the back of the mini-market. Using her kitchen knife, she pried open a window and slipped inside. The mini-market was a 4-story building, with the first floor serving as the store and the upper floors as storage warehouses. Each floor took up an area of about 200 square meters. Zhao Lijai skipped the first floor entirely and headed straight for the warehouses. The warehouse door on the second floor was unlocked, and she opened the door carefully. No one knows if there are zombies inside. After opening the door, she checked her surroundings. After making sure there was no danger inside, she walked into the warehouse. When she saw the supplies inside, her eyes widened with joy and she thanked the owner in her heart. The room was filled mostly with women's products. Shampoos, body soaps, wet tissues, skincare products, disposable underwear, sanitary pads, and other daily necessities were all there. Though the quantities were not much, the variety was a lot. Wasting no time, she quickly stored everything in her space. There were at least 20 large boxes of each item, with sanitary pads being the most abundant stock. After clearing the second floor, she went to the third floor. On the third floor, she found convenient foods like instant noodles, canned goods, oatmeal, self-heating meals, powdered eggs, etc. While these foods might be considered junk food in normal times, in the apocalypse, they were priceless luxuries. Since the production line is cut off after the apocalypse, there is no way to get more of these things after they are consumed. So, in a year or two, people will be willing to pay a high price for a cup of instant noodles. With hurried steps, she stored all of the supplies, with only one thought spun in her mind. Collect, collect, collect everything. Once the third floor was empty, she quickly went to the fourth floor. The fourth floor warehouse was filled with beverages, beer, carbonated drinks, juices, flavored milk, mineral water, etc. In addition, it was also filled with condiments, men's products, medicines, etc. She even saw many boxes of small umbrellas piled in the corner of the room, with different sizes, textures, and flavors. She wasn't embarrassed to see the boxes. Instead, she feels lucky. In her previous life, this item was the most popular item among the ability users. Although the ability users would have difficulty conceiving due to DNA mutations, most still use it to protect themselves from disease, while normal people use it to avoid unwanted pregnancies. The first few months were spent searching for food, water, and medicine, so no one pays attention to stocking up on this item. But a year later, food shortages forced many men and women to sell themselves for food. By then, the product will become a hot commodity that could be exchanged for 10 kilograms of rice, for a piece of small umbrella. While her thoughts were filled with memories from her previous life, Jiao Lijai's excitement fueled her tired body, and her movements quickened despite her sore muscles. After she collected everything from the 4th floor, she finally went to the 1st floor. Recalling the survivors trapped in the lecture hall, she decided not to take everything. To maintain the appearance of a water-type ability user rather than someone with a dimensional space, she took out her backpack from her space. Then she filled it with 5 pieces of bread, 2 bottles of mineral water, 2 protein bars, a pack of sanitary pads, a bottle of aspirin, a bottle of ibuprofen, a bottle of iodine-based wound medicine, and a pack of caramel candies. After she filled up the backpack, she left behind food with a short expiration date such as several pieces of bread, some unfresh fruits, and a few bottles of soy milk. In her previous life, the silver-haired man's team also included a powerful water ability user, who was his junior at the university. This member is also someone who has awakened the ability in the early days of the apocalypse. With this person around, they wouldn't have a problem regarding the water shortage. So, she left just 3 gallons of water for them. After she collected everything besides the small supplies she deliberately left behind, she slung her backpack over her shoulders. Hearing the sounds of fighting in the distance, she glanced in their direction and muttered, "Mo Bingsu, I won't kill you now, but I won't let you have an easy life either." Leaving through the 2nd floor window, Jiao Lijai made sure to close it behind her. For now, she was too weak to survive alone outside. Staying hidden in the university and leaving by following the group later was her best option. Without sufficient food and water, they would be forced to leave the university sooner than they had in her previous life. Meanwhile, with them clearing out the zombies, she could get some rest and recover from her fever. Not long after she left, Pei Yijun and his group arrived at the mini-market. Seeing the locked door, smiles appeared on their faces. Chapter 9, Blunt Words. Li Yang approached the door in a few steps, and with a light pull, he broke the padlock. After awakening his strength ability, tasks like this were left to him. At this moment, he was able to move a car with his bare hands, let alone break a small lock. So, he did it without any problem. At first, everyone was excited thinking about how much supplies they could get as they stepped into the mini-market. However, their smiles disappeared the moment they saw the empty shelves. Standing at the entrance, everyone was stunned, and no one spoke a word for a long time. Pei Yijun scanned the area, and his sharp eyes caught faint footprints on the floor. Judging by their size and shape, it seemed someone had been there before them, and that person was most likely a woman. His gaze shifted to the few remaining supplies on the shelves, some bread, almost rotten fruits, a few bottles of soy milk, and 3 gallons of water. When he saw the small amount of the supplies, his frown deepened. "Brother Pei, this amount of food and water is not even enough to last us for a day." Li Yang finally broke the silence with frustration clear in his voice. Pei Yijun's face was gloomy as he responded, "For now, we will take this back and share it with everyone. After that, we will have to come up with a new plan." Originally, he had planned to stay in the university for a few days until the person sent by his father arrived. But with their limited supplies, staying here was no longer possible. It seemed they would have no choice but to search for supplies outside and meet that person on the road. Whoever this person is, how could they take everything? Don't they know there are so many starving people right now? Mo Bingsu muttered softly. She bit her lips and her tone was filled with anger. Though she spoke softly, the enhanced senses of the ability users allowed them to hear her clearly. Chu Zhimiao's expression darkened the moment she heard Mo Bingsu's words. She looked at her and asked, "Mo Bingsu, how do you know the person before us took everything?" "No one knows what happened here. Maybe by the time this person arrived, most of the supplies were already gone. There are other survivors out there besides us, after all. It's not like that person has Doraemon's pouch that could store everything." Mo Bingsu bit her lip when she heard her words and her eyes turned red. She looked at her with teary eyes and said aggrievedly, "Mayo, please don't be angry. I didn't mean anything, I just..." Chu Zhimiao hated her pretentious behavior the most and cut her off sharply. Mo Bingsu, if you don't know the facts, you shouldn't speak carelessly. Without evidence, it's better to keep your speculations to yourself. Everyone has eyes to see and ears to hear. Instead of spending time and energy acting like a green tea bitch and trying to use others as your dagger and shield, you should think about how to get more supplies, she added bluntly. The moment she said this, Li Yang glanced at Mo Bingsu briefly before returning to the task of packing up the supplies. At first, he also believed that the person who arrived before them had indeed taken everything. But after hearing Chu Zhimiao's reasoning, he reconsidered his previous thoughts. It seemed unlikely that a single person could carry away the entire warehouse and mini-market's supplies. Perhaps there are other teams who came before that person and took away the supplies. When this person arrived, the mini-market was likely left with not much supplies. What's more, the fact that there was some bread, water, and other items left behind showed something about that person. If that person had the means to take everything, why leave so much behind? In their current situation, every piece of bread could save a life. If he could take everything away, there would be no reason for him to leave anything behind. In their current situation, whoever found supplies first became their rightful owner. For someone to take only a portion and leave the rest behind, it shows that this person didn't have malicious intentions and was quite generous. Reaching this conclusion, Li Yang's anger dissipated, and his suspicions toward Mo Bingsu increased. At the same time, Pei Yijun glanced at Mo Bingsu, and a cold glint flashed in his eyes. From the moment she joined his team, he knew that she was a vicious, selfish, and cunning person. She acted brave and generous, but in reality, whenever she encountered danger, she would use others as her shield and run away whenever they were facing a dangerous situation. Thinking about her subtle hints of becoming his woman, disgust filled his heart and he said, "Let's finish packing and return as soon as possible." His calm but firm voice brought everyone back to focus. Realizing that they were wasting time arguing here, the group began gathering the remaining supplies, though the atmosphere remained heavy as everyone had their own agendas. 10 minutes later, they finally exited the mini-market after thoroughly searching the entire building. Aside from the first floor, the rest of the building was completely empty. Not long after they left, Jiao Lijai jumped down with a light step from the tree behind the mini-market and brushed the dust off her pants. Watching their retreating figures in the distance, she smiled and began trailing them. Chapter 10, Water Blade. With most of the zombies in the area already killed by Pei Yijun and his group, their journey back to the lecture hall was smooth. Tailing them at a slow pace, Jiao Lijai stops to examine the heads of the dead zombies. Using her wooden stick, she poked and stirred the charred brains, searching for crystal cores. Some of the zombies' brains were burned by Pei Yijun's thunder-type ability and turned into a crisp, black charcoal. With just a light thrust of her wooden stick, the brains crumbled into blackened dust. If there was a crystal core hidden within, it would remain intact and would glisten under the sunlight. Unfortunately, she found none so far. At this moment, Jiao Lijai was like a hardworking honey bee. She continued her tedious task of poking and stirring the zombie's brain until her arm ached. Yet, out of countless zombies, she found only a level 1 blue crystal core with a size no larger than her pinky nail. Letting out a sigh, she examined the small crystal core, its faint glow shimmering under the sunlight like a luminous pearl. Despite her frustration, she carefully stored the crystal core in her space. Unbeknownst to her, the moment she stored the crystal core in her space, something unexpected happened. Inside her space, the blue crystal core suddenly crumbled into dust, and the energy it stored floated in the air momentarily before being absorbed by the pond. As the energy disappeared, the hole at the bottom of the pond released a surge of water. Although the pond was already filled to the brim, the water continued gushing out without a hint of stopping. Strangely, it never overflowed, and the water level remained constant. Outside the space, Jiao Lijai finally finished checking the zombie's brains and found 3 more transparent crystal cores. She wiped the sweat from her forehead with a smile. She looked at the lecture hall building for a moment before turning around. If nothing unexpected happens, this group of people should leave the university in 1 or 2 days. Rather than waiting with a group of selfish people, she better find a safe place near the university entrance. She still had a fever and needed to rest to recover. If her fever kept dragging on, she didn't know what would happen to her already weak body. If she recalled correctly, there was a small post for the security guard to stay in. Although the area was small, the post had iron doors and window bars, which made it safer than other places. After making up her mind, she quickly ran toward the main gate. 30 minutes later, she arrived at the guard post and saw a zombie inside. The zombie had been walking aimlessly, but as she approached, it suddenly turned around and rushed toward the window. Roar! It let out a roar while reaching out its rotten hands toward her through the window bars. Looking at the zombie's sharp teeth and rotten face, Jiao Lijai took out a boning knife from her space. She looked at the door and noticed it opened outward. Since that was the case, she couldn't use it to push the zombie back like before. She thought for a while, and an idea flashed in her mind. Since she was able to produce more water in this life, maybe she could create a water blade to deal with the zombie. After all, the limitation for an auxiliary-type ability user wasn't a weaker ability, but the limited energy to control it. After making up her mind, she focused her energy on her palm and waved her hand. In less than a second, a crescent-shaped water blade with a diameter of around 15 centimeters flew toward the zombie. The water blade was as thin as paper and flew between the window bars at a fast speed. When she saw how small and thin the water blade was, Jiao Lijai felt disappointed in her heart. In her previous life, her water blade had reached more than 2 meters in diameter and 2 centimeters in thickness during her peak. She could kill a group of zombies in one move. Compared to her current water blade, the level was too far behind. But before she could let out a sigh, she saw the thin water blade fly past the zombie's head and hit the wall with a loud sound. Crack! Jiao Lijai's eyes widened in shock as she saw the zombie's face split in half. Even the wall was left with a deep crack due to her attack. What's more surprising was that her water blade stayed in shape and did not turn into water as it stuck inside the wall. The next second, the zombie fell to the ground with a thud. Feeling the energy connection between her and the water blade, her heart was beating fast. With a flick of her hand, the water blade flew back to her and floated above her palm. As she absorbed the energy back into her body, the water blade turned into water with a splash. She could feel that the energy she absorbed was around 30% of what she had used to create the water blade and control it. She looked at her hands in a daze and muttered, "When did I get this ability?"